joy to be here. What are the desires of your heart? What are some of the things that you long for? What do you dream about? What do you think about? And how do those desires relate to God? Because there's one thing that I really believe with all of my heart more and more, and that is that God is a God of our heart's desires. And so many times we don't think that. We think that we desire something and God is completely something else. He's everything that we don't want. And nothing could be further from the truth. And I really believe that every desire that we have in our hearts, at its core, at the root of it, it points to God. And at the core of it, it's from God. But we look around today and we see these people who have desires that we do not believe are good. You know, like take a desire for pornography. You know, and we have men today using women and women abusing themselves through pornography. But what's behind that desire when you untwist it? When you look behind the distortion at its root, at its core, is simply a desire for love. And that is of God. So I want to ask, what do you desire? And how do you view God? How do you think of God? What do you think he is really like? And C.S. Lewis, whom I also love, said that this world is a battleground between good and evil. And if you believe that there's such a thing as good, and you believe that there's such a thing as evil, then you have to know that we live on a battleground between the two. And with every choice that you make, you're fighting for something. The question is, what are you fighting for? Which side are you on? And what kind of man are you going to be? Because I've got to tell you something today, guys. This world desperately needs your strength. Now, a lot of men believe the lie that they don't have what it takes to be the man that God is calling you to be. And I just want to say right now that that is a lie. And I know that for a lot of men, it's, do I have what it takes? Do I have what it takes to be that kind of man? Do I have that kind of strength? And it's scary to think that you might not. So what are you fighting for? The second desire, an adventure to live. Do you believe that God has a great plan for your life? Do you believe that he has an adventure for you to live? Like I said, we often have these distortions of God. And I remember when I was younger, well, I still am pretty young, I'm 22, but when I was younger, I thought, no, God is not an adventurous God. I know exactly what's going to happen if I say yes to God. He's not going to give me anything that I want. Basically, he's the God of my worst fears. And the life he has for me is just boring, and I don't want it. I'm not so sure I can trust him. And I think that that is a fear that we have on the surface of our hearts, fearing that God is boring and just, what we don't want. But I really believe that when we look deeper, what we're really afraid of is God is really risky. Are you really? What are you really going to call to? And dare I hope that you are the God of my deepest dreams. I'm scared to hope that you are because I might get let down. To hope is quite a risk. But that's a fear that we so often have. Lord, are you the God of my worst fears, or are you the God of my deepest dreams? And I know I've had to wrestle with that in my own life. But I love looking at the Blessed Mother's life. I mean, you want to see an adventure? You want to see an example of the kind of God that we really have? God chose an unwed mother who was maybe 13 to bring his son into the world. She should have been stoned to death for it. So she says yes, and suddenly she's got the risk of being killed, murdered violently. And her fiancé, she doesn't know what's going to happen because this is really, really scandalous. And then she and Joseph have to flee because a king is out to kill her baby. And if that's not adventurous, if that's not risky, I don't know what is. But that's the kind of God that we have. We have a God who loves adventure. Why do men crave adventure? Because they're made for it. God has an adventure for you to live. But the question is, are you brave enough and willing enough and courageous enough to just say yes to it? The third desire, a beauty to rescue. And I've got to tell you guys right now, a little secret about women. They don't like to be used. And men were not made to use women, and we see that happening so much in our society today. It's heartbreaking. You want to see the example of a true man? Look at the cross. You want to see the example of a strong man, a brave man, a man who was truly unafraid? Someone who suffered so much. Someone who was that unafraid to be crucified violently because that's how much he loved us, each and every one of you. And if you were the only person on the face of this earth, that man, that king, would have come and left his kingdom and come to this foreign land to live and to die just for you. What kind of man are you going to be? I want to share a song with you now that I wrote from my heart to God when I was in a place of just so much fear, wondering what would happen if I really said yes to God. What was going to happen if I really surrendered? But I just encourage all of you, go to God with your fears and your questions, and don't be afraid to surrender to his love. I take a look around me, and I see a world moving so fast, I'm not quite sure I can keep up. Who am I to be? So many questions surround me, they won't ever seem to stop. What if my best isn't good enough? What if I try and I fail? What if I can't ever measure up? And what does success entail? I can't find any comfort, for I have never been so filled with fear and anxiety. I'm looking for some way out. I don't